Hey, it's Patrick Brewer here from Brewer Consulting. Wanted to talk to you today about a topic that I get a lot of questions about, and that is sales strategy for financial advisors. A lot of financial advisors struggle with the sales process because they think it's their responsibility to convince the prospect that their investment approach or process is unique and that there's something magical that they can do in order to influence the prospect and get them to want to move forward. When in reality, the sales process is actually pretty simple. It's actually really simple. The first part of the process is figuring out what caused your prospect to even reach out in the first place, right? So why are they calling you today? What's their logical problem? Do they need help with retirement income planning, Social Security, financial planning? Are they behind in their savings? Do they need help with budgeting, right? So the first part of the conversation is all about the prospect. You're asking them open-ended questions to figure out what is their logical problem? What made them feel like they even needed to reach out to a financial advisor in the first place? After that, you're able to qualify them to see if they're going to be a good fit for your practice, right? So you're trying to figure out what their income is, how much in assets they have. So this is your qualification process. It should be 3 to 5 questions that you're going to ask after you've identified the logical problem in the discussion. And at that point, it's a question of, are they going to be a good fit? So let's assume they're going to be a good fit for your practice. Now, this is where the sales conversation actually begins, because you're responsible to help them realize that their problem is not necessarily logical, it's actually emotional. So depending on the type of person you have, you're going to ask different questions and you're going to take a different path. So there's really 2 paths that you can take in the sales discussion. If you're working with a retiree who has questions around Social Security, retirement income, what they're looking for is certainty, right? Because right now they're uncertain. They don't know how much money they can spend in retirement. They might be worried about outliving their money and maybe having to return to work at some point. So your job there is to not solve the problem. That's the mistake that almost every advisor makes, is they want to solve the problem because they understand this and it's easy for them. So by solving the problem, they feel like they're able to prove to the client their value and that they're an expert, so then the client's going to want to move forward. That's the biggest mistake that you can make in sales. If you solve the problem, it takes the emotion off the table, and now there's no reason for that client to move forward and engage with you, right? So instead of solving their problem, what you need to do is clarify the problem and dig the knife in a little bit, right? Not in an unethical way, but we need to get the client to understand that right now they're in an uncertain position and there's a gap between where they're at today and the result that they want in the future. And your job, what sales is to help them sit in the gap and realize that what position they're in today is not where they want to be in the future. And then you position your services to help them close the gap in a way that's very specific to their situation. So if I'm dealing with someone who's struggling with retirement income planning and their primary problem is they want certainty and they don't have it because they don't understand the answer, I'm going to allow them to flesh that problem out in deep emotional problem around running out of money in an ethical way. And then I'm going to explain what I do. And when I get a chance to explain what I do, I'm going to state it very briefly and basically say, well, I help people solve issues around retirement income planning so that they don't run the risk of ever having to outliving their money and having to return to work and become a Walmart greeter, right? And then I'm going to ask them a very simple question after I've defined who I work with and how I help them. I'm just going to ask them the question of, do you feel like this could be what you're looking for? And most of them will say, well, yeah, I think it is. Well, why do you feel like it is, though? I'm going to ask them a follow-up question to get them to explain back to me why they feel like my solution is going to be the most appropriate solution for them. So that is how sales works. It has nothing to do with you explaining your investment philosophy, your approach, solving problems for people. We absolutely have to solve problems, but we can't solve a problem unless somebody agrees to allow us to solve it for them and pays us for our expertise, right? And the only way that they're going to do that is if they're emotionally engaged in the discussion. Because if you solve their problem on the front end, the conversation is over. They don't need your services. This works a little bit different if you're dealing with a business owner or somebody who's more growth oriented, because they're not necessarily looking for certainty. They're looking for leverage and they're looking for a faster way to either grow their assets, grow their business, or just grow their wealth in general. So with these people, it's more selling to the ego and to the idea of them being able to fast track by leveraging your advice and your expertise. And then also allowing them to tell you what their vision is. So here we're trying to future pace these people, get them to vision cast, get them to tell us what they want out of their life, out of their business, because ultimately that's what they view this conversation, because nobody ever asked them this. No one's ever really asked them or been interested in where they're trying to go or what they're trying to accomplish with their business or what their vision is for the future. So they're really going to enjoy that part of the discussion. And again, all of this is done in an ethical framework. We're not manipulating people here. What we're trying to do is help people understand that they think that they have a logical problem. They have a problem with taxes, retirement income planning, budgeting, all of the usual set of problems that people come to financial advisors with. But in reality, the problem that they face is not logical or transactional. It's actually based on the fact that they haven't looked at their finances holistically, and they're not acknowledging the fact that they could make behavioral decisions that are going to potentially damage their wealth in the future. There's obviously a lot of things that we're solving on the back end that people don't seek us out for, but that's ultimately why they're seeking our services foundationally. They just haven't realized it. So that is the framework that I would leverage for sales. That's the framework that we use in our practice in our RIA, and it works fantastically well. So don't overthink the sales process. Don't overthink it. It's really not that difficult. You don't need to strong arm anyone. You don't need to use manipulative sales tactics. And you absolutely don't need to solve people's problems on the first discussion. And the first conversation, whether it's over the phone or in person, should not take more than 30 minutes. And always get a commitment after the first meeting. They have to commit to something, or else the conversation's over. If there's no follow-up, they're never going to follow through, and you're going to lose the prospect. So I hope that was helpful, and I look forward to talking to you soon. Take care.